The most pertinent question that has ever been asked is, how do we get reconciled with God? How do we know we are on His good books? How do we know we are cool with Him? How do we know that eventually we will make it to heaven? And when you think about all the religions with all their rituals, ultimately this is a question they're trying to answer. They're trying to see how can we be clean and pure before a God who we know is out there. And in the pursuit of truth, different religions do different things, but Christianity proved itself to be true when Jesus rose from the dead. And the God that Jesus points us to is the God of all the universe. And the question for us is, how do we get to Him? And so this is a continuation to the reading through the Bible series. Exodus 28 has a very interesting story it's actually not a story, it's just a list of instructions of how some clothing is to be made, clothing for the high priest. So Israel is being instituted as a nation, and one of the most important people in terms of their office is a high priest. And the job of the high priest is to make intercession for the people. His job is to, he's human as any other, but he's been given this office, and his job is to come to God to make sacrifices that allow God's forgiveness to flow to the people. And so that's the job of the high priest. So in Exodus chapter 28, we are being told Moses is being given instructions on how it is his attire is supposed to be. And so he's being given the design, and we can imagine him there just holding a pen and paper and just writing it out. But two details really captured me. Exodus 28, one is in verse 12, one is in verse 29. So there's something he's supposed to wear. It's called an ephod. It's going all the way down. It's flowing downwards. And then on the shoulders, there's something that's supposed to be placed. And the something is actually two precious stones. And then on the stones, it's supposed to be written the names of the tribes of Israel. And then at the same time, there's some breastplate that he's supposed to wear as well. And then there are 12 different stones. And now for each stone, one name for each tribe. But here it was 6 names, 6 names. And this is what we are being told. Aaron is to bear the names. Aaron is the first high priest. Aaron is to bear the names on his shoulders as a memorial before the Lord. And then it also goes on to say, whenever Aaron enters the holy place, he will bear the names of the sons of Israel over his heart on the breastplate of the Lord, on the breastplate of decision as a continuing memorial before the Lord. And I think why this is very interesting is there's a dilemma of, there's this nation that's called Israel that will keep on failing again and again, morally, spiritually, in terms of a covenant that has been set out. They'll keep on failing again and again. And so God is instituting an office that will help press the reset button, that will help remind them of their fallenness when they remember they need to make sacrifices over and over again. And so this guy who's supposed to represent the whole nation has the names of everyone represented through the 12 tribes on his shoulders and on his chest. And I think that's a very beautiful image. I think it's beautiful what God is doing, that whenever Aaron goes into the temple, whenever the high priest goes into the most holy space, he is not just going in as himself, but as a representative of all the people, and he bears their names. He goes in with all of them. I like the idea that it's written on precious stone. And so, though these people will mess up time and again, they're precious in the sight of God. because God chose them, he has made a covenant to keep by them, and though they sin, God still values them greatly. And so their names are written on precious stone. Always. Their names are written on precious stone. But the most interesting thing is, if these people are to find forgiveness, the high priest has to do a good job. Otherwise, they won't. And in Hebrews, we are told about the great high priest, the best of the best. He who has an eternal office, he who did no sin and thus doesn't even need to make a sacrifice for himself, he who lives forever at the right hand of God, and that's Jesus. And if you think about it, if we are ever to make it into heaven, it is because a high priest has to carry us, or rather to bear our names on his shoulders and on his chest. That the only way we make it to heaven is through Jesus' intercession as our high priest, through the priestly duty that he performs, and that the only way we are getting there is because he carries us on our shoulders and has us at heart. And so would you think of that? Would you think that your salvation is secure as long as you decide to place your trust in Jesus Christ? And then Jesus Christ, he himself, is going to walk us in to the presence of God.